A new and unique invention developed by a UL alumnus will aim to substantially improve the comfort of women during menopause. The MyCelsius band is essentially a wristwatch device which can detect a hot flush and cool an individual down by 10 degrees in 10 seconds. The product, which is the brainchild of Aonghus Dolan and Maxime Kryvian, is coming to the Irish market next month. And Aonghus has been speaking to Clare FM's Daragh Dolan and began by telling him about the origin story of MyCelsius.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a very good description of our product actually as well. Why is there two male co-founders here starting a women's health company and designing something that treats menopausal hot flushes? It's a good question. To be honest, it started when Maxime, my co-founder, he used to get anxiety-related hot flushes. And there's lots of different types of hot flushes someone can get, whether it's due to anxiety or stress or diabetes, or obviously the big one is menopause, or cancer treatments. He met me, and I had just spent my whole career working in the very niche industry of designing and inventing cooling systems, and basically just trying to invent miniaturized cooling systems. I spent my career working for Dyson, and then I went on to work in Formula One. And we decided to put our heads together basically and see what could we do about this issue. And as soon as we started doing some research, we realized, hang on a minute, menopausal hot flushes is the big one here that there's really not many solutions out there for. Like, I think a lot of people will be familiar with hormone replacement therapy, but I think unfortunately only 17% of women in Ireland take or use hormone replacement therapy. And it can be great for those that it works for, but a lot of people can't take it or choose not to. So yeah, we put our heads together and put about 3 years of research and development into researching and designing this solution that cools your wrist and in turn reduces or interrupts hot flushes.
And look, obviously hot flushes, they vary in how much they severely impact one woman over another. Have you been able to take that into account? Is there, I suppose, a varying approach for somebody that might feel the impacts of this a lot worse than somebody else?
It's a good question. Some people obviously have very, very severe hot flushes, and some people are less severe. To take that into account, we've kind of worked with hundreds of women going through menopause, especially, and done user trials with them, and their feedback was absolutely critical to how we designed the product. So for that very question, we designed in several cooling modes, adjustable cooling modes for different intensities, for those who need, a stronger intervention to cancel out the hot flush. And it's probably important to explain how it works. So you're probably wondering, how on earth can cooling the wrist actually have an impact on your whole body when you're having hot flush? So you probably know the wrist is one of the most temperature sensitive parts of your body. Lots of people will put a baby's milk bottle to their wrist because you can really feel what temperature it is. So our product, worn like a smartwatch, it cools down the underside of your wrist by 10 degrees in 10 seconds, and then it keeps cooling it down for another 10 degrees. And by cooling the wrist, this sends a signal to your brain reminding the body that it doesn't need to be doing a hot flush, because your body never needed to be doing a hot flush in the first place. A hot flush is like a false signal where you could be perfect normal temperature, and then all of a sudden your brain thinks, crap, I need to start sweating profusely and I need to start racing blood around my body to cool down, when it actually never did in the first place. So this little cooling intervention on your wrist just reminds you, reduce the hot flush or turn it off completely.
What sort of regulations did you have to meet, and how can you ensure that this is 100% safe, no adverse effects?
Yeah, so in terms of regulations, it's not a medical device. It's actually a wellness device. It's not treating something. It's providing just a practical solution to helping hot flushes. So there was no like medical regulations to jump through. There was standard kind of consumer electronic regulations, like to make sure the product is tested and compatible with CE regulations, compatible with UK and Europe, making sure it's safe. And then ultimately the bigger requirement there is not only trying it and testing it on things in the lab. Like, we actually built a fake human wrist to ensure that we could do thousands of tests over and over to keep iterating and improving and optimizing on the tech. But then also taking it from the lab to the real world is absolutely critical. So as I mentioned, we worked with hundreds of women, and we ran user trials where over about 2 years where we achieved 81% efficacy. So that means over 81% of people who tried the product says it alleviates their hot flushes, which is absolutely amazing for this kind of tech, for something that's so subjective as temperature. Everyone's so different when it comes to temperature.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering about other areas, because clearly you have an interest. Is there other gaps in the women's health market that you're looking at that you can maybe assist with our plug, or even the men's health market?
Very good question. So, yeah, I mean, I specialise. I'm a mechanical engineer. I went to UL in college, but when I went to work for Dyson, I studied under one of the world's leading thermal comfort specialists, and he taught me a lot about this. So thermal comfort is basically the science around how to make people optimally comfortable in terms of temperature. So this is obviously the first version. If you're on your iPhone 16 now or whatever, this is the MyCelsius V1. There's certainly more aspirations we could make it a smarter product. There is a growing trend nowadays to incorporate more sensors to provide people with more data and health tracking insights, fitness insights. And I think although there is, smartwatches and big providers moving towards providing women's health stats and biometric data, I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. I think a lot of the R&D is still done on men, or like your Apple Watches will often report things that are kind of unisex results, whereas I think they should be a bit more targeted towards women. And yeah, we certainly have some ideas there, and we're already working on things like that. So ways we could predict hot flushes and actually intervene before a hot flush happens. Our current product, you essentially push a button and within a second you feel the cooling, and within a few seconds then it can actually interrupt your hot flush. But a future product might be looking down the lines of no intervention at all, so it might automatically cool you. And to answer your question on the wider youth, the general population in men and women, with the growing demand of heat stress nowadays, like we've already had such a hot May so far. We have tons of ideas of different types of cooling products that we can't give away too much, but you can imagine if you're sitting at your desk in the office and it's just not cold enough, or in bed at night time, we want to provide cooling solutions that can tailor to anyone and everyone, really.
And just finally, Aonghus, I can imagine it was not a simple process, nor was it probably a very cheap process to develop this and to do the R&D. Do you think there's enough, I suppose, supports out there, enough of help out there, or even enough of resources out there for startups like yours, companies like yours, to develop this technology? Or is it very much a sink or swim space?
I'd say there needs to be more funding, public funding especially, available for this type of R&D. I think we were lucky. We managed to get some early prototypes made soon that we put in front of investors that it really impressed, and we managed to raise a decent amount of money, which I'm sure you can imagine how much it costs to develop this kind of product and mass manufacture it, all over about 3 years. So yeah, ours is privately funded, but I'd love to see more kind of government funded schemes for helping subsidise projects in innovation around women's health and the wider area. Yeah.